What's popping, my pimples? Welcome back to Wallace Probably. With the Chaotix Casefiles coming to a close, I want to talk about them with you because, you know what? I'm just gonna come out and say it. This is the best thing the Sonic social media team has ever done. Also, I might be gay. Sonic's social media team has been behind many wicked projects, whether it be the Sonic 4 video contest, which I did a whole video about on the main channel in case you're curious, alongside the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog visual novel, and now the Chaotix Casefiles. In case you haven't listened to it yet, you can find the whole thing on YouTube, but I implore you to listen to it on both Spotify and or Apple Podcasts to really support the team and we can get more projects like this. Also, if you haven't already, make sure to subscribe to the channel to stay up to date on when I drop videos like this. A brief overview of this series: the Chaotix Casefiles follows Vector the Crocodile, Espio the Chameleon, and Charmy B, aka the Chaotix Detective Agency, as they stumble into the biggest case of their careers. What starts as a seemingly normal museum robbery, where someone frames Knuckles for stealing an ancient relic called the astroscopic lens. Side note, by the way, I know I got that wrong in my Infinite video. My bad, y'all. Anyways, this robbery quickly spirals into a massive adventure spanning from Angel Island to a gun military base to crashing a helicopter by Cream's house, all to uncover what this lens really is and who's the thief trying to steal all the additional lenses. Crazy stuff. The series is narrated by Vector, giving his best impression of a hard-boiled detective, which honestly, props to his voice actor, Keith Silverstein, for keeping up this voice throughout the entire series. I can only imagine just how straining it must have been on his vocal cords. I think framing a majority of the show as Vector telling the story to Sonic as they're being imprisoned by Eggman, who's equally as invested into the plot, was such a hilarious and clever framing device. The way they egg on Eggman to bring them water and let them rest, all just to buy them time, and how Eggman will play along with it half the time, and on the other half just shuts them down. It just felt very in character. And I think that's just what you can say about this as a whole. Everything felt very in character in the Sonic universe, and I love that. It must be said, just about every single one of the voice actors and actresses that appear in this series give an amazing performance. Also, a massive round of applause to Chris Hernandez, who you may better know as Mr. Crits on Twitter. He's been one of the main people behind this whole series, and you can tell just how much love was put into this. So seriously, send him your love. I gotta say, for as much as I enjoy Sonic's big adventures that are shown throughout the games, I've been yearning for content like this that shows Sonic and his universe in a more casual context. I was so excited by the murder of Sonic the Hedgehog since a Sonic visual novel was always something I wanted. It's just too bad I got spoiled on the whole thing, so I never truly got to sink my teeth into it and enjoy it blindly. And for me, that's how I have to enjoy most things. If anything gets spoiled, it's donezo's. I will not engage with it. So being spoiled on that really stings. But since then, I've been really wanting either another visual novel or something equivalent to it, just to show us these characters interacting with each other on a more casual basis. And thankfully, the Casefiles give us that tenfold, but this time with characters we don't often get to hear from. It's from here I'm going to start getting into spoilers for the series. So again, if you haven't listened to it already, check it out on Spotify and Apple Music so Sega gets the most kickback and the money-minded people there can be like, oh, you know what? This is making money. Let's do more. So to really dive into this, let's talk about the Chaotix. It's felt like the last time we really got to know these characters in anything outside of the comics was in Heroes. I know they've made appearances in other games, but like, we don't really get the Chaotix. We get Vector, Espio, and Charmy, but not like the whole group's dynamic, you know? That's what's made the Casefiles such a fun experience. This series really fleshes out these characters, giving each one of them some sort of character arc. Vector is trying his best to be a great leader and to prove himself as a detective. Charmy is trying to find his purpose in the group, and Espio is trying to live up to his title as a ninja while constantly being outdone by others. The group's dynamic is so much fun. There were like multiple times throughout that I would just burst out laughing during any episode, mostly because of some BS Charmy says. Like in the 4th or 5th episode where Charmy starts confessing all of his wrongdoings when the plane's crashing and nobody really cares until he starts talking about flushing Espio's toy ninja, and that's when it crosses the line and Espio's like, what? It's just so much fun to hear these characters riffing off of each other. The only difficult thing with the main three is Charmy's voice actress being the same as Tails's, and you know, while some people can voice two characters and have them sound distinct enough to where you wouldn't be able to tell. You're like, whoa, they share the same voice actor or actress? On episodes where Tails is also present, I found myself multiple times getting confused on who was speaking. While a bit unfortunate, Colleen still does an amazing job as both characters. I just feel like when they're in the same room, I gotta pay a little closer attention. I feel like I came away from this series with a better understanding of the Chaotix than I've ever had, and just becoming a massive fan. It felt like a character such as Espio never really had a personality outside of being a ninja, but throughout the case files, we had to peel back this dry, composed, and stoic character to reveal one grappling with his confidence and feeling as though he isn't good enough as a ninja, and I really loved seeing that. I also loved how much of a focus this series has on characters that we don't get to see much as fans, such as Gemerald, Tangle, Whisper, the Babylon Rogues, Sage, Infinite, and of course, Vanilla, who by the way, unfortunately to me, this is the only character who's been given a voice in this series that I'm just not fond of. It felt like her voice was more of an afterthought, and they gave her voice actress the direction of a deep motherly voice, when I feel like Vanilla's voice should be a lot more high-pitched, like her daughter's. Regardless, her actual voice actress still does a great job with the performance. It's just not what I wanted to hear from this specific character. Everyone else, though, solid job. I'll get into it more in a little bit. We also have the new character, Professor Tori, who's made previous appearances in, funnily enough, the third Sonic movie, just as a background cameo, alongside more recently, an episode of Tails Tube. But it's here where we really get the first introduction of this character and her whole subplot with Gun, where she's working for them the whole time while pretending to be an independent professor at Spagonia University. It felt like she was gonna play a bigger role throughout the series, but I did kind of forget about her near the end in comparison to the rest of the Sonic characters. Like, after the fourth episode where the Chaotix raid the gun base, she basically just disappears from the story entirely till the very end. I don't know, I guess she just didn't stick with me all that much. But to be fair, she's overshadowed by some amazing characters. Going back to said characters, amazing performances and excellent casting. Alejandro Sab does an amazing job as Infinite, replacing his previous voice actor, which, funnily enough, he also replaced that voice actor's character in Persona 3 Reload. Shout out our meat-loving boxer, Ketchy. No, that's Goro. Akihiko. Oops. Infinite's character as a whole is still kind of a loser, but in a much more, super villain way where he wants to destroy the world and he's super powerful and everyone will bow before him and know who's oppressing them, compared to before where he got beat up and just became like an angry incel about it. Like that whole shtick he had before, that's gone, thank goodness. Also, shout out Alejandro for doing a great job with Gemerald as well. Then you got Ashlyn Madden as Tangle alongside Enitis Kinenes as Whisper, who pretty much act as people's first introduction to these characters, especially for those who've never read the comics, aka me. I'll change that soon, I promise. What an amazing first impression they make. Ashlyn does a great job selling Tangle's high energy recklessness, while Enitis is able to own Whisper's quiet and calculated personality. These two are such an interesting duo that I can't wait to see more of in the Sonic franchise. The case files also fixed some long-running problems within the modern Sonic franchise. An example would be Rouge the Bat's voice actress. She's always had the right voice for Rouge, but her direction has always made her sound like a grandma or just some annoying posh girl. You can look at how she talks to Shadow at the end of Shadow Generations, or her ooh ah in Crossworlds. I've heard Karen Strassman as Aegis in the original Persona 3, and she is a solid voice actress, but for Rouge, it never felt like she quite knew the character. However, in this, holy hell. She really leans into this seductress side of Rouge that's been missing for so long. It really sells her manipulative tendencies, using people to get what she wants, and makes it all the more shocking whenever she does genuinely help out the Chaotix throughout the series. I think her whole role around messing with Espio and making him feel less than, but giving him just enough encouragement to string him along and helping her find the lenses made for a really interesting dynamic for two characters that never really interact with one another. I also love just how tied in with Sonic's world this all feels. Side note, hearing that high definition recording of the Station Square announcer was surreal. Apparently that's like the original recording. I didn't even know that existed, man. But getting to hop around all these locations, both new and old from the series, alongside the blending of older characters like the Chaotix with newer cast members like Sage, watching them interact with one another and subtly referencing previous Sonic stories just really immersed you into the series world and how interconnected it all feels. Also, oh my goodness, I'm sorry it's taken this long to talk about it, but the soundtrack of this series is incredible. Hearing these big band compositions of these classic Sonic pieces alongside little references to more obscure tracks, the damn saxophone playing when Rouge is around like it's an episode of Sonic X, what a nice touch, man. Also, Rebecca Sugar behind the main theme, what? Just an incredible soundtrack all around. I do genuinely hope we get like a proper release of it. There's not too much more I can say other than amazing work to the 8-bit big band. I love their Katamari cover they did ages ago, and now I can say I love their work on the Chaotix Casefiles. As for my thoughts on the ending, I think it's pretty hard to do big action sequences without visuals. Just a lot going on that can only be made clear through sound effects and the characters explaining what's happening. The whole bit of Tails pulling out a device to distort Infinite's clones' voices so you can more easily tell them apart from the main characters was very easily done to just make things more followable, but it's still a bit much. With that said, the ending as a whole was pretty damn satisfying. I thought Infinite just blew himself up with a bomb and ended himself like Foley. Turns out only one of those things is true, or they just flat out imply that he just simply disappeared. This in itself gives Infinite fans hope that they'll see their boy again in maybe another 10 years. But hey, he got to redeem himself, so I'm happy for the Infinite fans. The Chaotix getting their payment for the case via a repair of their helicopter and some associate degrees was really funny. But I enjoyed how they closed out everyone's arcs. SVO was able to prove himself and was able to hold his own against Rouge. Charmy realized he's way more important than he thought, thanks to his resourcefulness and quick thinking, and Vector managed to somehow solve a big-time mystery, after which they already get called to solve another case. A great way to end this series, if you ask me. I know some of you have been asking for my reactions to each of these episodes as they release, but in all honesty, this is something I want to experience for myself. I would listen to these episodes in the car each Tuesday, and that became a little ritual of mine that I'm grateful I gotta have. It's nice to have certain things just for myself, where I can just simply be a fan instead of an entertainer, you know? So sorry to those who are hoping for my reactions throughout the series. I'm sure I'll give you some reactions in future videos, or I don't know, on Sam's stream. I really hope this series gets some sort of physical release or just merchandise in general. I feel like Sega would be dumb not to. Whatever that looks like, well, we'll see, but please support this series where you can. And if you're re-listening to it, go to the streaming services. That'll make the biggest impact. And I'm sure if Sega's money goes up, they'll be more likely to make more of these. But if they don't, and this is just a one and done thing, I'm really grateful it was this specific project with these specific characters that we don't get to see from much. It's just really nice to have something made for once for those who are just passionate fans of the series, instead of something made for the everyday person who probably wouldn't care about these characters. So thanks to everyone who put work into this project and brought it to life. This is easily one of my favorite pieces of Sonic media ever. But I want to know, what do you think of the series? Let me know in the comments below. Thanks to my patrons for making videos like this possible, and you for watching. Little fourth wall break about the gameplay here. I got to 84 out of 85 of the enemies defeated, and after like 30 more minutes, I gave up. Okay, bye!